Okay, time to talk some basketball on the Sportsmax Zone. The NBA managed to squeeze in 2 games on Sunday, dominated by the Super Bowl. In the first game, the Celtics tightened their grip as a top seed in the East. They're also league leaders, of course, with a win over the Western Conference's second seed, the Memphis Grizzlies.
First place team in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics, hosting the second seed in the West currently, Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. A couple of all-star starters between Morant and Jason Tatum. Boston, the first team in the league to 40 wins so far this season. They've won 3 in a row coming in. Jason Tatum using the screen for the 3. He was just 3 of 16 from the floor in this one, finished with a pedestrian 16 points. Meanwhile, on the other end, off the Boston turnover, Ja Morant with the lay-in. He had 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. Meanwhile, supporting cast pitching in for the Celtics. Peyton Pritchard, 4 of 7 from downtown. Sam Hauser starting in place of the injured Jaylen Brown, who's out with a broken face. Hauser knocks down a 3 as well. And then Derek White getting to the tin, plus the foul. And Tatum, even though he didn't have his best day, that bucket right there caps a 13-0 Celtics run. They led by 13 at halftime. Grizzlies would fight back in the third. Desmond Bane missing, but at first you don't succeed. Try again, knocks down a triple right there. A 10-0 Memphis spurt, and it's tied at 63. More from Morant. Gets into the paint, stops, pops, and gets the kind roll off the back iron. And then here he splits 2 Boston defenders and hangs and hits. Then Morant, look at this. On the money pass to Brandon Clark for the bucket and the foul. Clark would miss the free throw. Memphis up by 1 late in the third. In the fourth, though, Boston now up by 1. White had his 6th 20-point game of the season with 23. Also his second straight game with 10 or more assists. And Sam Hauser, a career-high 6 triples. Boston 4-0 so far this season, coming into this one when he had at least 5 or more threes. Robert Williams III with a putback dunk, and then the wily veteran Al Horford, a raindrop 3 with the clock expiring on the shot clock, and more from Robert Williams. He had 10 points, also 16 rebounds, including 5 offensive boards. He now has 3 straight games of 15 or more rebounds as Boston gets the win, 119-109. The Celtics have now beaten the Grizzlies at home in 9 consecutive meetings.
Yeah, so the Celtics top team in the league at the moment with a 41-16 record. Clearly number 1 based on stats. Denver and Milwaukee probably the closest to them at the moment. Alister Albert, our NBA expert, joins us now. Alister, welcome to the Sportsmax Zone. How good are the Celtics now heading into the second half or in the second half of the regular season?
Yeah, the Celtics right now have shown that they're just ready to continue to do the same thing that they've been doing all throughout the season, remaining strong, remaining solid. They're a team that's sharpening a lot of their tools, their skills, and players who you normally wouldn't hear. I don't think anyone has really heard much about Sam Hauser. The casual NBA fan might not even know who he is. He's an undrafted player, second year in the league, and he's out there, providing really solid minutes, scoring 20 points and 6 3-pointers career 3-pointers. So to me, the Celtics, what they're doing right now is in these dog days of the season, the February game, some might say meaningless, against a team which you might actually think could be NBA finalist. This ended up becoming more of a game about the Celtics just sharpening up their tools and getting guys who normally wouldn't get heavy playing time sometime in, and it's really good to see that. I think later on in the season this will kind of come and pay dividends for them in the playoffs when guys probably need to step into the rotation for key stretches within games and provide some sort of production. So this was more about the Celtics getting better. I believe they were able to show that tonight.
Definitely, and the depth of the Celtics team is very, very commendable. But I want to talk about the weapons, and when I say weapons, I mean the Celtics had 21 threes, which means from the distance they're really, really brilliant. What did you make of that stat? And of course, the Celtics getting the job done in style.
Yeah, when I kind of looked at the game and looked at the box score and everything, I had to kind of go back and look at their threes and compare it to last season as well. The Celtics are actually getting even better in threes right now. They're shooting more threes per game than last season. They're shooting a better percentage, shooting about 5 more threes. So we saw what happened in the playoffs last year, where the 3-point ball and the proficiency of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, all these guys coming in and shooting 3-pointers helped them progress as the playoffs went on. So the shooting. What was really surprising about last night as well, they shot almost 60% of their field goal attempts were 3-pointers. So they're really confident in taking threes and making threes. They're second in the league in attempts behind the Warriors, and they're making them at a respectable clip. So it's right for you to point out, Brian, because that was something else. The disparity between them and Memphis in their short chart. But the Celtics, this is not a fluke. It looks like they'll be really strong in that category moving on.
Yeah, definitely not a fluke, because they didn't have Jaylen, they didn't have plenty of their key players. And, as you mentioned in your answer, the depth of this team, players that we never even heard about. And when I say that, I say it very lightly, like, players that wouldn't regularly play for the team, stepping up and putting up big numbers. And that's, the type of problem you want to have on a team. You want to ensure that you have players that can come in at any time and, of course, give you those numbers.
Yeah, definitely. So, like we said, we mentioned Sam Hauser, who shot 6 of 11 from 3. Peyton Pritchard, who, was shown to be a little bit of a pest every now and then. And the only acquisition that they made during the trade deadline, getting Mike Muscala from the Oklahoma City Thunder, he came in and put up a couple of points on a night when Jason Tatum didn't shoot the ball very well, only 16 points, and 3 of 16 from the field. So, it's guys coming in, getting the reps. Of course, Marcus Smart being out, Jaylen Brown having the facial injury that he has, that kind of provided those minutes. But, those reps would be very invaluable to them later on. So it's really good that we were able to get these guys in to do that.
Yes, and the other game on Sunday saw the Raptors and Pistons clash in a game that went down to final possession. Let's take a look at those highlights now.
A matchup north of the border on Sunday between two Eastern Conference teams, Pascal Siakam and the Toronto Raptors taking on Jalen Duren and the Detroit Pistons. Duren coming off a 30-point career-high night in Detroit's last contest. But Fred Van Vleet feeling right at home on the Toronto floor, knocking down 3 of 4 from downtown in the opening quarter. He had 16 in the first, as Toronto led early 18-9. On the other end, Detroit fumbling the ball around. Malachi Flynn scoops it up and dishes to Siakam for the easy finish. Toronto on top by 5, 3 minutes into the second. Bojan Bogdanovic not dealt at the trading deadline by Detroit, and he knocked down 10 of 18 shots in this game, finished with a team-high 33. That bucket tied it at 44. Scotty Barnes, top of the key 3. Toronto led by 1, 53-52 at halftime. In the third, they're out running and gunning. Siakam kicks it out and gets it right back. He's parked beyond the arc, and Siakam knocks it down off the feed from Fred Van Vleet. Alec Burks, another veteran for the Pistons. He had 21 off the bench. Good ball fake there. Wide open 3. Trims the deficit to 7 for Detroit late in the third. More from Van Vleet, though. This was his 9th game of 30 or more this season. He had 35, including 6 triples. And then Siakam. Did he lose it, or did he mean to throw it behind the back? Take another look. I don't think he knew what was going to happen right there, but it worked out nicely. Chris Boucher trailing and finishing. And then how about more from Bogdanovic? Tough bucket right there. The veteran gets it to go. He'd make the free throw as well. 94-87, 8.5 to play. Siakam right back at it this time. Step back at the foul line. 2 of his 28. And then Scotty Barnes open in the corner for 3. He had 20. Siakam 28. Van Vleet 35. They combine for 83. They hold on to beat the Detroit Pistons at home 119-118.
Alister, can we talk about Fred Van Vleet, of course, getting 35 points. It's the 9th time this season that he's gone over 30 points, and I think we should talk about him.
When you guys said you wanted to have a look at this game, I was like, okay, yeah, there's not many games on the schedule tonight. So, talking about the Raptors, really, who are we really going to be talking about? But yeah, Fred Van Vleet is definitely the guy to highlight here. 35 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 of 13 from 3-point range. He's a guy, who's a proven player. He's a champion, former All-Star. He's a really good, productive point guard. A scoring point guard at that. This is why, of course, many teams coveted him during the trade deadline. The Phoenix Suns, before they even got Kevin Durant, were looking, to probably take him into their team. And also the New Jersey Nets, who were trying to salvage any sort of relationship with Kevin Durant, were looking at bringing him in as well. So right now, what Toronto has right now is a guy who is trade bait. I think they're going to hold on to him for the rest of the season. Of course, they're probably going to be in the playing spot. He might solidify his production and, people's perception of him in the playoffs or whatever it is, wherever the team lands towards the end of the season. And, just kind of become a trade target for the rest of the season. But yeah, he was outstanding against Detroit Pistons. Again, we're playing the Detroit Pistons, a very young, inexperienced team. But, he was able to do his thing. And, it's a really, really good 35 points, 8 assists. That's a good outing.
Definitely a good outing. And Jakob Poeltl, a name that I had issues trying to pronounce, he got his first start since, coming to the Raptors. Were you impressed by what you saw from him?
Yeah, he was very, modest appearance, 6 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, 3 blocks. He's the 3 blocks, of course, very good to look at. Anyone who plays fantasy basketball, we're really happy with that because blocks give you quite a lot of points, in those games. And yeah, he played really well. And it was nice to see him playing at center alongside another big like Precious Achiuwa, who had been playing center before. So Nick Nurse right there is showing that he's trying to play a very big front court with Pascal Siakam, of course, playing the small forward position. So they could be actually a really pesky team to play against, no matter play in, playoffs or whatever it is, and these guys have a feistiness and fight about them. But for me, I think the Raptors right now have reverted to type, early 2000s Raptors, where you'd expect them to kind of be in the playoffs, but not really go too far. This is kind of what the team seems to be right now. But, in big respect to them, they're an NBA team. They could beat anyone at any given night. And we'll kind of have to see how they play out the rest of the season and who they end up playing against in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how far the Raptors can go. Of course, Alister, we thank you so much for your contribution. And we'll talk again as the NBA continues to heat up.
That's right, guys. See you later. Thank you.
Welcome. Alister Albert Day, our NBA analyst. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, it's time for La Liga.